Everybody knows reading exercises the brain. It exercises something called neuroplasticity. Nothing exercises neuroplasticity more than reading, and all readers are leaders. People who do well financially are also readers. Warren Buffett reads 8 or 9 hours per day, and it is no accident. He has so much notoriety and so much success in his life. I mean, he started reading at 7 years old. When he was 12, he read all the business books they had in the library. He became a billionaire at 57 years old, so he was reading all that time. Now, maybe for you, money isn't everything and success is just happiness. Well, you still have to expand your mind in order to be happy. Because that's the reason for living. That's why we are here, to expand. And that's how Warren Buffett got there, by expanding his mind through self-education. All successful people also had mentors. Even Albert Einstein had a mentor. And the very quickest and best way for you to pick up a mentor in any particular area is to read a book. So if you want to learn about business, choose some of the greatest businessmen who are also the greatest writers. Hypothetically, if you're into retail, pick up a book by Sam Walton and see what he has to say. You see, what happens with books is the author's beliefs and perspective about the world comes through in their story. It actually comes through in the words. And when we begin to model our world through their beliefs and perspective, well, guess what? We can change our life. When we approach our world and with the same type of beliefs and perspective, we can get the same results. Now, knowledge is obviously power, but there's only potential power because it needs to be infused with the proper action. So this video is the knowledge part here, and some of my other videos are like the action parts. Now, of course, there's different variables to being happy and successful. There's something called osmosis, and other people's beliefs can bleed off on us, and it can happen to us without us really even realizing it. So if you're a go-getter, it's very important for you to surround yourself with the right people. You see, if we have people who are like complainers or whiners, those are the people who have limiting beliefs, and those limiting beliefs can affect our lives. It's like a virus. It can affect your entire influence. And if we want to be happy and successful, unfortunately, we have to choose who is in our general influence. I mean, if these people are not willing to take responsibility for their own life and bring something positive to the table within your life, then they do not deserve to be around you. It is your life. And the average American lifespan is about 78 years. Women tend to live a little bit longer, and we only get one chance at this thing. So it's like, you know, I used to waste my time with those kind of people when I was a teenager. But as time went on, I learned I'm not letting someone else drag me down, not even one single moment within this precious life that was given to me, period. Doing something like becoming more lean and muscular can be one of the most rewarding experiences, but it is also one of the most difficult to do. Well, so it'd be the same with reading books. A lot of people have a hard time sticking to a reading schedule, but it is one of the most rewarding things we can do for ourselves. As we begin to read every day, we begin to create the habit, and next thing you know, it becomes easier, and we begin to self-educate and expand our minds. We strengthen that neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the fact that the mind is like a muscle, and if you begin to exercise your mind, the mind actually becomes stronger with use. This is when we become more self-aware, more aware of our environment. And as we begin to become more self-aware and strengthen that neuroplasticity, life becomes easier, and we actually become more successful without even really trying very hard because we're at a different level of intellect. Now, when I go to work on my body, you know, years ago I was a weightlifter, and I just first started up again, and when I first started, it's like I could only curl like 70 pounds. Now, muscle has memory, and I know I would get my strength back, and I did, but I know I'd have to have like a laser beam focus, and I have to get my grand vision, and now I can curl like 225 pounds. Now, back before this, when I was a power lifter, when I first started, I could only squat like 200 pounds, and that felt heavy, but I started adding weight on. I had my grand vision. I had a laser beam focus. I had a vision of who I wanted to become in my mind, and I pictured myself squatting very heavy weights. Sure enough, as I began to step into that reality, I was able to squat over 650 pounds. We as humans get more of what we focus on. So we have to focus on what we want in life, not what we don't want. Most people are focused on what's going wrong in their life, and then they wonder why they're failing. But sometimes it's kind of hard to do. It's what Tai Lopez calls the archaic 100,000-year-old mind. What is the archaic 100,000-year-old mind? Well, it's the whispers of 10,000 generations telling you to focus on fear. And that's the innate drive within us that has allowed us human beings to thrive as a species for over 200,000 years. It's that fear. It's the amygdala part of the brain. I'm a 195-pound guy squatting over 650 pounds. So it's like success doesn't happen through default. It happens through a careful strategy, planning doesn't always work because plans are not always changeable, and that's why we need a strategy. Strategies are changeable. You see, as we begin moving forward in our life, we begin to get feedback through our mistakes. Mistakes are never failures. They're just a feedback mechanism. And that feedback mechanism gives us the insight to tell us what to do next time so it comes out right. It shows us how to take the right actions. And the next thing you know, we change our approach and move ahead. So with any skill, we have to be focused on what we want to become. And as we can see ourselves better than we are and take small steps to create that reality, that's how we begin to create our success in our world. It's a formula I've used to do many things in my life. It's very important to have that grand vision. All right, so today we're going to do a quick book review. The first book I want to review is called Jab, 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 Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuck. Gary Vaynerchuck is a very well-known entrepreneur, primarily for his insights in social media and marketing. Gary is also known as the elite go-to guy when it comes to knowing what to do in social media. So it doesn't matter if you're a marketer or if you're someone who just wants to grow their social media, and this book can really help you understand what to do in order to dominate. The author, Gary Vaynerchuck, is also known to have an uncanny ability to be able to predict what's going to be the next big thing. I mean, he predicted Snapchat, and Snapchat took off. He also predicted the demise of Twitter. He was actually an investor of Twitter, and he knew that he made a mistake. Gary is known to be very hip, and if you mention his name, people jump to attention. He is very well respected, and he has a great reputation. Gary's very inspirational and very straight to the point. A lot of times when he speaks or writes, he actually comes off a bit abrasive, but I think he does that on purpose because he's brilliant. He knows the viewer or the reader doesn't want to get bored, so if he comes off a bit controversial, I think it only helps him. Anyway, this book is obviously a boxing metaphor, and it's a very well-made book, nice color coordination. This book was $35 in the store, very well made. This book is all about strategy. He explains the strategy that works in social media. Jab, 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 right hook basically means give, 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 then ask. And the whole metaphor was put together to put across to the reader that if you want to sell on social media, you need to know the particular platform that you're dealing with. Then give them 3 emotional jabs. What emotional jabs are posts or engagements that engage the person in an emotional way. Then in time, you go for the right hook. So it makes sense because it's all about using association. And if a person is going to be more emotionally attached to you or emotionally bonded in some way, they'll be more apt to want to see your offer. So throughout history, most marketers have just thrown right hooks. They try to sell their product straightforward, and for the most part, that worked for the times. But when social media came, it's like the game changed. Because people come to social media to engage with others, to be entertained, or to have fun. So Gary's point is you have to treat them differently. You have to give out jabs in order to warm them up. Gary Vaynerchuck also goes into how you must know the nature of the platform and you need to engage accordingly. So for instance, on Facebook, people are there to share what's going on in their life. So you wouldn't want to just hard sell them on Facebook. Want to talk about family or what's most important in life and pull on their heartstrings a bit. And when you engage or make a post, it has to fit within the particular platform. So he goes on about how sharing your content and communication is still key, but the context of what you're sharing is more important than ever. He also goes into the importance of native versus non-native content. Native content is something that looks like it belongs on the platform. Basically, you need to know the language of social media, that each platform has its own language and you need to be able to speak that language fluently. So if you're someone who doesn't know how to use social media for business, this book will be great for you. He tells you how to approach each platform and what you should be doing. I want to thank you for joining me here today in our first book review with Jab, 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 Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuck, and we'll see you in the next book review.